go into PowerPoint slides that I'll be discussing the coronavirus and the financial updates. I can see that I've got my iPad in front of me as well, which is just here. So I can look at your questions as you fire them off to me. I have just noticed I'm on repeat, so I better take the volume off right now, both applications. Here we are. So good evening to you all. Hope you're well. I have expected to do a two-way conversation with you all. So I'm hoping that we can achieve that tonight. So let's, God willing, the things can work and you will be engaging with me. So without further ado, let's get into the details then. So my name is Simon Misiewicz, clearly. I'm from Optimise Accountants, and I'm going to be talking about the financial impact caused by coronavirus. And I'm going to give you updates as much as I can possible, given the constraints of the government and HMRC in terms of the tech that they have and have not got set up. I'll be doing that. Lou, if you're listening to me, could you pass my juice by any chance? That'd be fantastic help. So otherwise I've got to reach over to the desk and I'm just worried my tech will fall over. So in terms of the another update, we did run a property tax workshop a couple of weeks ago on a Saturday, and that was is now live on YouTube. So if you did miss that workshop, which was live, then feel free to go and watch that live stream. And that is 2.5 hours of great. Thank you ever so much, Lou. So one of the things that I have done is volunteered for the NHS responders. That is to help the NHS. I think we would all agree that doctors and nurses deserve an amazing amount of credit after what goes on. Jan Minty, who is our business development manager, sent me an email. I saw something, not an email, something I saw on Facebook saying that you can forget the Oscars, forget the red carpet for all of the celebrities. We should have the red carpet rolled out for doctors and nurses. Quite agree. So I'm trying to do my bit as much as possible for the NHS, and I know the rollout of that is a little slow, but they have had over 405,000 people respond within just 24 hours, and it's probably more 600,000 people now that have enrolled. So great to hear that. As a reminder, as Boris Johnson would say, stay at home, protect the NHS and save lives. I couldn't say it any better, so I won't, but it is worth repeating that process. I think the scary news I heard today that a 12-year-old child was taken from coronavirus, and as far as I know, no major illnesses that they had. A 14-year-old before that, a 21-year-old before that. So where we thought that it was only going to target and attack the elderly, not so. So whatever you could do, protect yourselves, protect your children, and protect the community at large. So let's ignore that. So before I talked about that, what I want to do is make this a two-way conversation. So it gets you the opportunity to share your thoughts and feelings, and with me as well. So what I'd like you to do is describe what your feelings are on coronavirus. So just one word about coronavirus. And the word I used before was worried. So I'm pretty much going to say the same thing. I'm not going to say anything different to that. So there we are, worried, because the fact that we have got this situation going on, which is now affecting children. I'm a father, and obviously when I saw that, it sent a cold shiver down my spine. So if you're a parent, no doubt you'd be having the same feelings. But it will be a good interest to see what everyone has to say. So just one word, if you don't mind sharing your thoughts on coronavirus. And while you're at it, a second poll is, what is your biggest worry about the financial crisis? So in regards to the financial crisis, I think mine is no one having money. I think that has got to, and you'll see I'm just typing, so I'm hoping you can just do the same thing, by the way. No one having any money, and that's my biggest worry, because the greater uncertainty we have, the less money that there is going to be in the marketplace, and we are financially going to be strapped. And I don't know about you, but it's nice to have money. It's nice to be able to spend it out in the open place and to enjoy yourselves without the stress and the worry around that. So I will be coming to your comments throughout the session because I do have my iPad, and this is something I've not thought about using before, but it is very, very useful. By the way, if you can do me a favor whilst you're watching this, give this video a good old thumbs up, if you do find this information useful. Also press the subscribe button because I do release maybe 2 videos, if not 3 videos out per week. So if you haven't subscribed to this channel before and you want to be notified every time that we release a new video, please press the subscribe button. It will get that message to you that we have released a video. And throughout this session, do please comment with any prompts or questions that you might have, and I will go back every time to look at what your questions is. Louise is online, so Louise will be able to provide some support to you as well. Louise is my partner in life and partner in business, and we've created our own YouTube channel. Not plugging that in too much at this stage, but do stay tuned for that in due course. So some people have been putting in here already: uncertain times, crash. So I guess that's in terms of financial marketplace. Nervous, stressed, worried, surreal, bored. One said bored. Okay, that's an interesting one. Uncertain and increase in buy-to-let deposits, not getting approval yet for furlough on 0-hour contracts. Yes, I will talk about that later on in terms of furlough and how that's going to be applied. Busy and tired at the moment. Do you know what? It's interesting. I have to be honest with you. I'm only 40 odd, and yet I'm going to bed much early in the afternoons. And I say that because normally I don't go to bed till 10, but I'm having to sleep for an hour at least all the way during the afternoon. Is anyone else feeling that, where you have to, all of a sudden you feel drained? I'm feeling emotionally and physical drainage to a point that I have to have a lie down like I'm an old person. It feels really, really strange and I hate it. But if I don't, I know I cannot concentrate. So is there anyone else who could sympathize with me on this? Because, or is it just me? Please help me out. If you're going through this tiring as well, do let me know. So type optimistic, someone else has said. Simon Collins said Simon Collins, and oh, okay, just saying hi. Challenging times, concerned about the done-up values when I refinance properties in 6 months' time. So yeah, property values, what's going to happen typically, and I revisited this because it's not on my slides, but typically what I always find is that property values do dip maybe 7 to 12 to 15 months after the financial crash. The reason for that is because people are not buying properties, and therefore the property prices cannot have a new baseline until someone is rebuying properties. So there is an instant delay. So we've had the financial crash. We was in the stock markets of 7,000. Louise and I have plumped in some money when the FTSE 100 was 5,100. So we've made some money already on that, on the indices. Maybe you could do the same. I don't know if anyone out there is doing indices in terms of Vanguard investments, but it's certainly paid off for us right now. So I think, yeah, it's there are some positives to all this, but yes, the property prices will fluctuate, but we won't see these decreases on price until 7 to 12 months time. So so let's go through the first bit I want to go through. So the first one is residential and commercial properties. So there has now been this ruling of 3 months. So they cannot have any evictions at all taking place for a 3-month period. And I think that kind of covers April, May, and June. Now that covers residential and commercial properties, by the way. So that you may be the landlord in one regard, but the tenant in another. So I am a landlord for residential properties, but I am the tenant for a commercial property for our offices. So the thing is, the 3-month thing is to stop people from being evicted. I don't think that's technically true. And I say that not to contradict or conflict, but if we can imagine that you cannot enforce an eviction process for 3 months, we could be in a position whereby we've got a tenant in situ and they have rights, and we need to have conversations. I'll come back to that. But you could be in a position whereby they have not paid rent for whatever reason, and you cannot start that eviction process then until the end of June or the 1st of July. But the eviction process after that could be 2-3 months anyway. So you're now looking down the barrel at 6 months before you can go through a true eviction process, if not longer, because of court orders and whatever else. It took us nearly 9 months. Maybe Louise, if you're listening to this, Louise Misiewicz, my life crime partner, if you can say how long it took one of our tenants to be removed from one of our properties, then put down the number of months. But then that's got to be added on to whatever Louise is saying. We've got to now add on an additional 3 months because we're not allowed to kick out or even start the eviction process because of what the government have done. Now, coming on to that, I would say that it is all about working with your tenants. Ultimately, you are in a people's business. So you as a landlord have a responsibility to maintain a property, and they have a responsibility to pay you. Now, the thing you can do is worth looking at the ASTs, because whenever you do a referencing for a tenant, it will say what they do for a living. Now, if they're a student, a bit more difficult, or a bit more easy actually, because you know what they do. But in an AST, it will say, so it's a client referencing, so on, you will see what they do for a job. And you can have a look in terms of that employer to say, well, have they furloughed employees? Is there a risk of their job being put at risk? So one of our tenants, interesting enough, was at Laura Ashley. Now, I don't know if coronavirus finished off Laura Ashley in full, but ultimately, he worked for a company that worked predominantly for Laura Ashley. And unfortunately, that company went bust. Whether it's coronavirus or not, I don't know. But ultimately, he had only moved into the property around about December last year and signed a 1-year contract. Now, he's got no job. So it's easy for me as a landlord to say, well, you signed a contract, you need to pay the rent. But ultimately, I know he's not going to be able to do so. So do I want a problematic situation, or do I want to be human and say to the tenant, it's okay. We need to work with one another. So I talked about claiming on benefits, whether there's any aid that he can get. And we agreed that actually he would just vacate the property, which he's now gone. But it is about working with one another. So do have conversations with people. Don't bury your head with your tenants, and vice versa. If you're a tenant, make sure that you speak to your landlord to explain your situation and what's going on, and talk with each other, because ultimately contracts are only there for legal disputes, but we all need to work with a common sense approach as well. So have good conversations. If you're a landlord, speak to your tenants, have a look at their referencing. Where do they work? Are they at risk? If they are, what can be done? Even things like furlough, the things you hear from me tonight could be passed on to them as useful information. So do listen well to the next sections of this, and then explain those rights to your tenants, because ultimately it is better to have a happy tenant and a happy tenant that's paying. So do have a think about that. So we do have this, obviously this 3 month, but I rather suspect that the eviction process will be longer, but it is about working with one another. And that's for both residential and commercial properties. Now, if you've got a business that has got an office, high street, etc., then there are grants that are going to be available. Now, this could cover guest houses, bed and breakfast, but it won't cover serviced accommodation, holiday lets. How do we differentiate between the two? Well, a guest house and a bed and breakfast provides services, not just the room for a night's stay or a weekend stay. So if you are a business that has an office, or indeed you've got a shop front, something like that, then you would typically have to pay business rates. Now, nicely, the government have said, well, we'll give up grants for this. So the first government grant that there is in place is a £10,000 grant to pay your business rates, where you've got a rateable value of £15,000. So typically is your rent value is your rateable value, by the way. So if you've got a shop or an office, then you can get this government grant of £10,000 for rateable value properties of £15,000. And again, this is commercial, please bear in mind. The other government grant is the business rates of £25,000, where you have got a rateable value between £15,000 and £51,000. So you've got two grants, 10,000 and 25,000, that can be used to pay your business rates. So ultimately, you may not have any business rates to pay. It is worth you speak to your local authority. On our website, interesting enough, I'm updating that tonight to give you all the links of where you can go for the business rates and government grants. So maybe worth checking that out tomorrow, which is going to be the 1st of April. And that's not a joke. It will be updated. So 1st of April, April Fool's Day, this will be live for you to have a look at the rateable values, the grants that you can pull on, and where to get those. Okay, so let's talk about the other side to it, is breaking news. Make sure you write down this telephone number straight away for me. It is 0800 0159 559. That's telephone number again. It's 0800 0159 559. I appreciate you can see it on record, but I always think it's better if I can read it out and you can write it down. The reason this is really interesting is the fact that the government are helping us from a tax perspective as well. So the first thing is if you had a VAT payment that is due to be paid to the HMRC from the 26th of March, which is obviously gone now, but you've got a payment that is from that date to the 30th of June, then you need to cancel your direct debit. You don't need to apply for the deferment of your VAT. It is something that you pay in the future. I think you've got to pay it within 1 year. Now, what I would say on that is you have got this situation whereby you've got you think to yourself, well, the government are doing me a great favor and that's all good. Problem is, you haven't cancelled your direct debit on your government portal. So I immediately went onto the website to see that I have a live direct debit in place. And yes, it was going to take my VAT payment on the 5th of April. So I was quite quick to cancel that direct debit. So please make sure you do the same. Just because the government is saying you can defer this payment, unless you cancel that direct debit, it will take it. So please make sure you do that. And again, you may be in a position where you say, well, I actually don't need to cancel the direct debit. But my view is, well, why not? Keep a good balance sheet, or keep a good bank account, and then pay it over a period of time. Maybe you could use that to keep the rainy day fund, or if you need the money to make an investment, which you know can turn around quite quickly, then is it worth you doing that? And that's one of the decisions we took to say, well, let's use that money to put into the indices. And we made 10% within 2 days. So it was worth us doing that. Bit of a gamble, yes, but the FTSE at that time was very low. You're not going to go much below 5,000, let's be fair. I think it's at 5,600 today or something like that. So VAT is one. Income tax. So if you do a self-assessment tax return each year and you've got a tax liability over a certain value, then HMRC would expect you to make payments on account. The first payments account normally is the end of 31st of January, and the second payments account would be the 31st of July. Now that payment account, the 31st July, can be deferred. So you don't have to now make a payment account on your tax liability on the 31st of 2020, 31st of July 2020, sorry, that can be avoided. So again, it is another way of keeping that tax money in your bank account in case you need it, in case things go wrong in your job, etc. And we'll talk about furlough, we'll talk about self-employment grants, we'll talk all that good stuff. So stay tuned for that, because we will be covering that off later on. And the other side to it is that you can delay other taxes as well. So if you've got corporation tax, CIS charges and things like that, then you can indeed contact HMRC on that telephone number and discuss your particular situation and get that deferment. It is ultimately there to help you get through this period, not have to pay tax, but keep the money in your bank account just in case something does go wrong and you need to pull on that money. Okay, so I'm going to just hit on before I go any further, if you've got any questions, etc., then type those in. I'm just going to go into the chat function to just have a quick catch up to see where we are. There's not much going on, actually. This is quite interesting. So too much decluttering to do, so keeps me motivated. Well, that's good. Good evening. Hello. Oh, Julian Varman. Hello. Devinder. Hello. Good evening. And let's have a look. So Alexander Powell. Wow. I hope that's because of my wonderful presentation skills that you just said wow to, rather than the content. But do let me know. Ricardo said, wow. Oh my God. Yes. Just cancel all direct debits and standing orders. Actually, the thing I would say, as Ali has said, interesting enough, was cancel your direct debits. Actually, a very good tip. I did that on my iPhone, went into my subscription and noticed that I was paying for a yoga subscription for the last 12, 18 months. I haven't used it. Why am I paying for it? Delete it. So I did that. I would recommend you look at all your direct debits through your bank accounts and then knock them off. If you don't use them, don't pay them, is the first thing. So make sure you do that. It's a good tip there, actually, in terms of direct debits and standing orders. Cancel ones you don't need, especially. Okay, so mortgages and loans. So mortgage payment holidays, residential buy-to-let mortgages. Let's talk about that. What does that mean? So the banks have come up and the government have said, well, there's a payment holiday. So this could be for your home mortgage or indeed on your buy-to-let mortgages. Now, the interesting thing, we had a bit of a joke about this to say, well, don't call it a holiday payment, call it a deferment, which is true. Ultimately, it's not a holiday whereby you don't have to pay, which in the previous example, we talked about the fact that the people could not be evicted for 3 months, and certain tenants have now taken that as, well, I don't have to pay rent then for 3 months. Okay, you need a bit of an education process. Similar to this really is that you could take a payment holiday from your home mortgage or your buy-to-let mortgages, again, to beef up your balance sheet, to beef up your cash bank accounts. Now, you do need to pay it at some point in the future. Does it affect your credit rating? No. You need to have a conversation with your bank manager. You could easily go through your broker, but my honest opinion, you could easily do this yourself. You don't need a broker. A broker, it is good for looking at the whole of market and understanding what you need to do. But if you've got a real conversation to have with your bank manager, make it direct. You don't need to wait for your broker. Brokers are there to help you get the best mortgages. If you kind of fill their time up with administrative type of tasks, then they may not be able to help you or anyone else get a good mortgage rate. So do have conversations. You don't need to have a payment holiday. You don't need to say to yourself, well, am I in a financial position to continue to pay my mortgages? Yes. Well, continue to do it then. You know, why defer it? If you're in a position whereby actually you do need to, because cash is pretty tight right now, then do have that conversations and just be open and say, you know, dear bank manager for my home mortgage, dear bank manager for my buy-to-let, can we discuss my account? Can we do something about it? And I'll give you an example. My bank is NatWest. They were very proactive and continue to be proactive to say what they are doing in the marketplace right now to provide financial support to us. So I'm just getting onto the chat function here. So in terms of what they've done, they have said to me, well, we can look at we can do a payment holiday. So we can say, well, we'll take away the capital and the interest that you have to pay. We can look at your overdraft facility. We can push up that as well. And we can put back the capital that you've repaid in the last 12 months and put that back into your bank account. And it's a great way of beefing up my bank account ultimately for that rainy day fund. Now, you do need to speak to them because you need to say, well, what are the fees? What are the charges? And is there an additional interest rate that's going to be applied? Well, the fact that you're deferring it clearly means that you will be paying extra interest because you've not paid the capital off. So do bear that in mind. You are going to be paying more interest as a result, but do have that conversation to say, is it worth doing it? The next bit I want to talk to you about is this business interruption loan. Now, the British Business Bank, which is being pushed by the government to say, well, if you are in a position, precarious position because of what's going on, you can pull on this British Business Bank loan and it will help you out. And there's a period of time when you don't have to pay the capital of the interest. I think it's for 12 months or something like that. But what my bank manager was saying was the fact that the interest rates, once you come out of that interest-free period, is very, very high compared to the interest rates that NatWest can provide. So it is worth having conversations to say, well, even though the government is saying there is support, is it the right support? There is an application process and a credit check that needs to be applied through the British Bank. It's not given to you. They still have to do their own due diligence and they still have to go through the main lenders, which is Barclays, NatWest, etc., Lloyds. So ultimately, you are still going through this process. So that is taking a lot of time. So it's still better for you to speak with your bank managers and say, this is my position. What can we do with that overdraft facility? What can I do with my business loans? Can I have a deferment holiday? How much is it going to cost me? And weigh up the best options. But what I would say to you all is pick up that phone and make that call. Because it's until you make that call, things are uncertain, things are unknown. Once you start taking action and you pick up the phone and you have good conversations with people, all of a sudden solutions start to appear in front of you, just like magic. Okay, so do that. Again, now I've noticed that on my like count thing here, I only see one like. So if you can do me a favor, if this is useful, then please do press that like button. It does help the YouTube algorithm to push that to push and promote this video. That's helpful. Hopefully it's helpful to you to push on there. So if you can press that like button, that'd be fantastic. Equally, if you can press subscribe as before to get notified, but also comments. What questions do you have in regards to this? Have you contacted HMRC for a tax deferment? Have you spoke to your bank and what have they all said to you? So if you've done any of these actions, please do provide feedback because I do personally want to know what you have found out to yourself. I've been quite lucky because I started the conversations very early. In fact, I started the conversation as soon as they mentioned the word lockdown, and that's some time ago now. So, I wonder what you guys are facing now that you're in maybe the time has moved on and the banks are very, very busy. HMRC are very, very busy. So what are you experiencing right now? Be good to hear that. And I'm just going to go and just take a sip of water, which by the way, you should do as well. Keep rehydrated. One of the things I've heard is that if you have warm water, it does help clear the bacteria down your throat. It goes into your stomach and then the acid kills the germs. I don't know how much true that is, but you know what? Water and juice isn't going to kill you, so carry on drinking. Doesn't mean that wine is going to be that great for you, Billy. Also, I've heard. So again, don't forget, press the like button, guys. If you can help me out on that, that'd be fantastic. So let's have a look at some of the questions and comments that have been coming out. Someone said, would cancelling your direct debits affect your credit rating? No, not at all. Actually, it doesn't mean you've stopped your payments. It just means that you stop your direct debits. So if you've got a loan agreement and you stop your direct debits and you don't make the payment to your loan, then yes, that can affect your credit rating. If you've got a subscription to a piece of software, or a TV subscription, and you cancel your direct debit, then they just switch it off. So no, that doesn't affect your credit rating, but it is worth having a look at all your direct debits, because I think you might be just as frightened as I was. So let's look at the other questions that come through. So it means holiday cottage isn't eligible for a 10K grant. Will you put more into indices? B, the answer to that is, if you've got a holiday cottage and it's a holiday let, then really, unless it's got business rates on it, you do need to speak to your local authority to say, is this a residential rateable property, or is it commercial property? Now that is a different C classification on usage. So do check out your local authority, because you may be surprised that it is listed as a business rates. And if so, the government grant could still apply, but it's very improbable. But it is worth checking that detail out for you. The second part to that is, would you put more money to indices? And the answer is absolutely. Why wouldn't I put money into indices if I feel that there is profit to be made? Right now, you've got to remember that the FTSE really hasn't been much below 5,000 for a very long time. The FTSE's been at the value of 7,000 plus at some points. So if you're like me and you believe in the old kind of cycle chain of investments, then I think there is room for maneuver. The value will go down again. There is no doubt. And if it does go down, I'm going to be putting more money in. So to answer your question, yes, I'm putting more money in. So let's go to the next one. Getting a mortgage holiday would affect my credit score. In terms of affecting your credit score, no. If you're speaking to your banks and you're saying, well, can we put things back, they're not going to put a -1 on your credit score anywhere. It's only if you don't keep up your payments. Now, if they say, well, do a holiday payment, they're not going to put a request in for you to make a payment. So since there's no request, they cannot subject you to a -1 on your credit score. So no worries on that front, but do have a conversation. Don't simply go, I'm assuming I'm getting a holiday period, and don't pay the direct debit. That would be wrong. Another question came up saying, as the rents for commercial and residential tenants can be deferred for 3 months, and they cannot be evicted if we agree a payment plan once things get going again, can the landlord charge interest? I think you could, but I think that's going to be a difficult question to be having, to charge them interest. You could, but really, and if you charge them interest, all of a sudden you then got to be part of the FCA, Financial Conduct Authority, because now you're charging an interest on a product. I would stay away from that, if I'm honest. Maybe charge an administration fee. Maybe you could do that. Maybe that could work, but not interest. Maybe just go with an admin fee. Another question is said, Peter's saying again, on an outstanding payment until brought up to bank account or credit. So yeah, back to my point, probably would go with the admin fee, not the interest. Alexander Power said, Santander has offered us £350 interest-free overdraft for 3 months, previously £250. Hold on. So they've offered you a £350 interest-free overdraft. That's nothing. I've got to be honest, that's pretty poor. I think NatWest are doing a lot better than that, if I'm honest. So do reach out to those. Okay, let's go with a bit more content then for tonight. So the first thing, right, here we are. So this is the devil in detail now. We're talking about 80% of UK wages is going to be paid by the government for employees that have been put on furlough. Now, I've done a video on this, so if you want a lot more detail about contractual rights, then I had a brilliant session with Cheryl Willey from Peak HR, and we had a bit of a to and fro interview talking about the government grants, what are the rights for the employer, what are the rights for the employees. And I've seen some shockers coming from the comments box, not on this particular video today or this chat, but on other videos whereby people are being told that they must take holiday. Oh, no, you do not. You cannot say to an employee, you must take holiday. You might suggest it. You might say, well, why don't you take holiday, because you can then, get full pay on that, rather than being put on furlough where you only get 80%. That does make a lot of sense, but equally they cannot force you to do something. And we always, with our guys at the office, we have this open discussion, say, look, why don't you think about doing this? We're not going to force you, but you need to have it. But this conversation that we're having on YouTube was pretty much, they were forced to do it, which you cannot do. So watch the Cheryl Willey interview that I had on Friday, and it was beautifully titled Furlough. So go check that video after we've done this video, okay? Don't disappear off. And then we talk about self-employed as well. And that's, if there's any self-employed, do listen out for that. But we'll talk about the employees first of all. So the furlough, what does that mean? A furlough means a displacement, someone that is put in a provisionally role, which basically means you're not technically working, but you are being paid. It's not like redundancy whereby you're being removed from the business. But furlough means that you are being displaced, you are not working. Please note that, because we've also seen on YouTube whereby someone's being placed on furlough, which means the employer is not paying that person wages, but that same employer has asked them to do work. Ooh, no, absolutely no. From an employment contractual right, you're not allowed to do that. And equally, that employer has just ripped off the government. So huge issues for that employer, I think. So where does furlough apply? Let's just go back to the baseline here. So an employee must be employed on or before the 28th of February. Okay, let me say that again. The employee in question that is going to be furloughed must be employed on the 28th of February or beforehand. Now that's a problem, because we have already seen situations whereby someone's left their job. In fact, the client I had a conversation with tonight had this same position as well, whereby they've left a job. This one was actually a different situation, but joined another company mid-March. Well, they're not going to be covered by furlough, and the company in question may turn around and say, well, actually, we can't get you to work because our business, for our typical business, is shut down, as an example. Therefore, we will not honor the contract. That person now may lose their job because of coronavirus. And because that employee hasn't had the opportunity to act on the job because they haven't got equipment, or they're not able to attend a shop front or an office of some type, then they could be in a precarious position whereby they sign a contract, but they couldn't honor it by acting it out. Therefore, there is no job. That's horrible. So you do need to be careful about furlough, and if you've just recently changed jobs. Equally, if you've started a job, let's say you started the job on the 1st of March, and you've been asked, you can't work because there's nothing here for you, you equally will not get furlough. So you may be in a position whereby the employer has to make a decision to say, do you know what, you're within 2 years of your contract, we're going to just make you redundant and pass you off, and we'll pay you your notice period. So you do need to speak with your employer sooner rather than later in case furlough applies to you, or indeed if you're worried about that situation. And what that means is that if you are placed on furlough, you're at home, you are not working, and the government will pay your employer the lower of 80% of your wages, or £2,500 gross per month. So if you're on £100,000 per annum, for instance, then if you are placed on furlough, you will get a maximum of £2,500 from the government that is initially paid to the employer. So the employer has to do all the calculations, they have to go through all that kind of good stuff. Then they pay the employee, and that is paid to them. Now, the portal, just to continue, well, in fact, if you do have any questions, please, by the way, do make sure you type those questions in as I go through this. So don't worry about, I've got other details to go through. Just type those questions in, because I will come back to that. But the portal from HMRC for this grant to be made available for furlough is not going to be up and running till the end of April. So your employer may be in a situation whereby I'm looking at this going, well, okay, it's the end of March. I've been asked to keep you on, even though you're on furlough from the 15th of March. I'm technically still going to have to pay you as an employer. Okay, because the government gateway is not open until the end of April. As an employer, I'm now out of pocket, even though you're not working. As an employer, that could be sour grapes and they could make a decision. So you do need to kind of make sure that they're on your side and, you know, this government thing works for them as well. But they will be in a position if they have to pay you mid-April that they will be out of pocket even though you are not working. And then they have to retrospectively claim from the government at the end of April when the portal is live. I rather suspect, though, that portal will not be making payments until May, if not June. So employers are having to make all these payments to their employees, being out of pocket month in, month out, and then hoping that this government gateway is going to be open for business and we get the money in. So I rather suspect that companies will be chuntering about saying, well, should we furlough an employee or should we let them go and then rehire them? Back to my point, at the end of this coronavirus, there are going to be less jobs around. So employers could still start to now play games. So you do need to be a bit careful with this whole situation if you're an employee. And by the way, if you are a director, and this is a conversation that came up before, if you're a director of your own limited company and you want to be placed on furlough, you could be placed on furlough if you've closed down all of your income generating activities. So for instance, I'm a director of a company that is generating accountancy income. Could I place myself on furlough? Well, the answer is probably not, because I've got employees that is working. I am going to have to manage those employees or support them in what way. I do a lot of the IT stuff and marketing stuff. That's going to continue. So could I place myself on furlough? No. But if I've got a business where I'm working on my own, maybe as a consultant, and my income now is dried up altogether, and I paid myself a wage through PAYE, payroll system on my bookkeeping system, then furlough could apply. I could then get this money from the government grants at some point in the future. So you've got to look at it from a perspective of, if you own your own business, could you be furloughed? Well, think of it this way. Does my business still generate an income, and am I directly or indirectly involved in that income generation for that business? Then probably furlough would not apply. If, however, I've got a business that had income, but because of coronavirus, it no longer has income as a managing owner business, then furlough could apply and I could get this government grant for the from HMRC. Again, please do note it's 80% of the wages that you have each month, or the maximum of £2,500. Now, most people, owner manager businesses, will pay themselves a very tax efficient wage and then take the rest in dividends. As such, if you're paying yourself, let's say for £800, well, let's make it easier for my maths here. If you're paying yourself £1,000 a month in wages, then you will only get £800 from the government when you are furloughed, because ultimately you're paying the rest in dividends. You will not get furlough on the dividends that you pay yourself, only on the gross wages. By the way, if there's any employees that get commissions, kickbacks, or bonuses, then please note that they will not be included in the furlough. It's only your basic wage that will be calculated for the 80% grant from the government. So I'm just going to cover off the furlough in terms of the softer aspects now, and then I'll go to the Q&A. So the furlough requires you to have discussions between the employer and employee. If you're in your own managed business, that's going to look pretty strange. Maybe we don't do that. It might be taken away for different reasons. But if you are an employer or you're an employee, have a good open conversations with them. If you're like us, then do use a good HR specialist. We use Peak HR from Derbyshire, if you're interested, to support us with just knowing what our rights are for us as an employer, but also what are the rights for the employees? And we have to work that out. So we have moved one person, rather than make someone redundant or something silly like that, which we don't want to do, we have moved someone to a different role, which we were recruiting for. So it saves their job, but it also makes sure that we as a company are also financially okay as well. So have that discussions. Must issue employees with documentation. So if you have discussions with them, always support that up with a document that you've signed and say, this is your situation, you've been furloughed, or this is your situation and we've moved you on. And don't forget, you cannot work whilst being paid by HMRC. So if you've been furloughed and you are seen to be working, you could be both as an employer and as an employee in trouble by HMRC, because technically that's fraud. So don't think that you can just kind of take money from the government and carry on your business activities, whether you're an employee of a business or you're an owner manager of a business, and you simply can't do it. So don't try it, because HMRC have set up this fraud team already, ready for this kind of fraudulent activities going on. Okay, so don't forget to press the like button. So if you're finding this, please do press that like button. I saw that there's only one like on there. That could be just my system not catching up. But what I would say is do press that like button. Oh, 19 likes. Perfect. It did take time for this to refresh. Rubbish iPad. So let's have a look. Again, press the subscribe button if you haven't already. Let's have a look at your questions. I'm going to take a sip because I've got I don't want to use the word dry throat, because I can see you all already running away from your screens thinking, oh, if he sneezes, am I going to get COVID-19? The answer is no, hopefully. There's no scientific effect unless we talk about computer viruses, and then that's a different level. And I'm not qualified to even talk about that. So let's have a look at some other questions that you've got saying on here. Louise answering Alexandra, won't go into that. Bees asked a question, will it now to look for your house hunting, or sorry, my reading, I haven't got my glasses, I'm going to do that, but then you can't even hear me, so you know, bad eyesight. It said, hold on, will have been looking for house hunting 1 year or now, according to your own space. Okay, so we're talking about house hunting. When is the right time to buy properties? In all honesty, I think buying properties right now is probably not a good thing. My own personal opinion. Now, many more experienced experts out there will be saying that I'm talking rubbish. The only reason why I say hold on right now is because we don't know what the recession is going to be like and how deep it will go. The fact that people don't have money means that they cannot buy houses. It will drag down the property values as we start to see people putting cheeky offers into houses that is then accepted, which then comes the baseline for everything else. So it might be seeing a downward curve in the future. Will we see house prices rocketing up? Not likely. So I kind of think you can wait and see. If there's a golden opportunity, though, that comes your way, then I don't think you should wait. I think you should jump on it, but only if it's a brilliant opportunity. So do bear that in mind, B. Martine said, I work part-time for a very large estate agency. I'm part-time. My contract states that I'm casual employee. I've checked with the government website and it says that are being encouraged to furlough me. Now, the interesting thing about my interview with Cheryl Willie was it stated that if you're full-time, part-time, 0 hours, you still will be covered by furlough. So even if you do go furlough, well, not you go by furlough, if your employer makes you furlough, Martin, then automatically you will be covered on that. So, and it continues to say, however, I have not heard anything for a week. What do? I am paid via PAYE. Speak to your employer. And if you're having issues, then I would honestly reach out to Citizen Advice Bureau to make sure that you are contractually covered, because if they're trying anything on, you need to make sure that, I mean, let's be fair. Every company in this land right now is going through a challenge. They need to understand what is going on, and not all of them will be reaching out to HR specialists. They'll be trying to interpret it themselves. unfortunately, that's a real bad situation to be in for you as the employee. So do reach out to them by phone and say, what's going on? What's the situation? Am I furloughed? Am I not? The fact, it sounds as though you may not be working right now because the shopfront may be actually shut down altogether. So technically you've been displaced. Does that mean you are furloughed? No, it doesn't. Until you've been told you've made furlough, then you're in a different position. They could be saying to you different things here. So my advice to you is get on the phone tomorrow morning, have that conversation with them to find out your rights, and speak to the Citizen Advice Bureau if you're not getting the answers. Equally, speak to Cheryl Willie from PKHR to see what she can recommend to you as well. You may have to pay a consultation fee, but is it worth safeguarding your future? Yeah, I think it is. Okay, so so Matthew said, I started August 2019, about 100 hours a month. I don't think it really matters when you started, but I do think it's worth you having that conversation with them to say, what are you expecting to do with my job? Have that conversation. Gillian Varman said, I'm hoping to get an idea on whether to complete on a property that's going through at the moment. I'm wondering whether I should pull out. Again, back to my point, if it is a good deal, don't pull out. If you think that the deal was a bit iffy, a bit kind of undecided, then maybe you should pull out. But again, don't give up opportunities just because I said delay certain things on purchasing. I'm just not looking at buying anything right now because I just kind of think, well, I want to see what the market lands. I'm not being proactive. Some people will be proactive and looking at those golden nugget opportunities because no one else is looking, and they may get a fantastic deal. So to be fair, if the deal works, Jenny, go for it. Don't pull out from it at all. Okay. And Ricardo is saying, sorry, I missed that question here. So let's just go to, Martin said, I've heard other employees will most likely be furloughed. Maybe, Martin, but again, have that conversation. Rishi said, should leaseholders lean on freeholders management companies to furlough staff, leading to reduced service charge? I don't think you can do reduced service charge, to be fair. I don't think you can force someone else to do something. I think it's more to do with they will charge you a service charge, and ultimately a roof needs to be replaced. Grounds need to be maintained. So I think you're on not such good grounds there, Rishi, to expect a service charge reduction, to be fair. But you can ask them, but I don't think you're going to go anywhere. Ricardo's asked, get the HMRC, HMRC, and getting income by renting property would be a problem. I will talk about self-employed and we'll talk about that, but if you're furloughed, that's a different conversation from your property income, so that's not an issue. Your furlough is all about your employment income and nothing else. Okay, Martin, good. I'm glad you have done all those things. Hey, Ali, great advice, Simon, and thank you for this. Very generous of you. Oh, well, I do like flowers. No, I don't. No, I don't. Gold. I love gold. I'll give you my address later on. So we'll do that. So, okay, let's get on some more details then, guys, and let's talk about the self-employed. So this is for people that have got self-employment income. They have done tax returns in the past and continue to do their self-employment activities, but coronavirus, COVID-19 has stopped them from generating an income. That is the situation that we're discussing. Let's get into the details. So to get a government grant from HMRC, your business profits must be less than £50,000 in the last 3 tax years. Okay, so this is not cumulative. This is for each of your tax returns that you have submitted. Your profits should not have exceeded £50,000. If you've got self-employment income that's less than £50,000 in each of those 3 tax years, then you can claim on the government grant. That's criteria point 1. Just going to get a drink while I do that. Dry throat. No, not dry throat. Dry throat. Just thirsty. Just thirsty. Okay, the second thing is your self-employment income must be more than 50% of your total income. So if you are employed and you have property income and you're self-employed, if your self-employment income out of those 3 categories, let's imagine that you've got a total of £150,000. Your property gives you, I don't know, £50,000, your employment gives you £60,000, that means that your self-employment income will be less than 50% of the total. So straight away, you cannot claim from HMRC this government grant for self-employed income support. Okay, your self-employment must be more than 50% of the total income. So if you've got £100,000 on your tax return shown, then your self-employment line must be £50,000 or more. Now, you could be in a situation whereby you've only got £20,000. Well, actually, sorry, scrap that, because I've already said that it can't be more than £50,000. So, what am I doing? So let's imagine, let's rewind. Okay, so we've rewound, very professional here, and you've got this total income of £50,000. What it's saying here is that your self-employment income must be more than 50% of that total income. So if we're talking about that level, 50% of the income must be self-employment. As an example, let's go for an easy one. £20,000 total income, property, employment, etc. You must be showing more than £10,000 as self-employment profits from your activities, okay? Because that's 50% of your total income. So that's point 2. So sorry I screwed that up because I kind of conflicted my first point. And you must be in business, and I forgot to do this slide on Saturday. So I did this on Saturday and I still didn't change this. So you must be in a business from 2019 and 20. 2019 and 20, you can sack me now if you like. Furlough me, in fact, but I will get paid. So must be in business from the year 2019-20, but have lost trade because of COVID-19. Okay, so what this is saying is if you are an online business activity and your income is coming from subscriptions, then your business activity hasn't ceased. It's continuing on despite COVID-19, because fundamentally, it doesn't matter where you are still trading. You're getting money in from all these subscriptions. So that means you cannot claim on the government for this government grant. Now, if you are a landscape gardener or a consultant, anything like that, then technically your trade will likely to have stopped already. And as such, COVID-19 has stopped your business from existing. So you could pull on this government grant. It will be an income, interestingly enough, it will be an income on your tax return. So you do need to show this money that's coming from for the government grant, HMRC, as an income line on your self-assessment tax return, which is really interesting because you end up having to pay tax on it. How ironic is that? Anyway, so you will have to do that. And basically the amount of money you can receive from this is 80% of the last 3 tax years. So let's imagine that you've got profits of 10,000, 10,000, 10,000 in each of your tax return years. That basically means that you will be able to pull off £8,000 worth of equivalent of this grant. Now, the grant is only open between April and June, so it's only for 3 months, but it's a apportionment of that aspect. So in reality, let's imagine from an easier aspect, if you was able to have £1,000 of worth of profits each month, and that hasn't changed in each of your tax returns, then you will be able to get £800 from government via this grant. So it is still 80% of your business profits that you was expecting to pay. They know this, by the way, because they can see it on your tax return. And we'll cover the details of that, but this is pretty much the financials, and we're going to go to the eligibility criteria, how you do it in a second. But this gives you pretty much the financials of what's going on here and how you can claim. It's a lot of detail, I appreciate. So it is worth you speaking to your accountant and tax advisor to say, well, am I likely to get this? Excuse me, need to wash my hands. Can't talk to you. Difficult position. What do you do? Don't touch your face. That's one thing. So you do need to think about this. Now, I did say speak to your accountant and tax advisor, and that's nothing more than to double check what HMRC are going to do, because HMRC have said that they will notify you automatically. So they know that you have submitted tax returns to HMRC. And by the way, anyone listening, if you've got a limited company, you are not self-employed, you are a director. If you are legitimately self-employed, you are doing personal self-assessment tax returns, that is where you are self-employed, okay? But it must be showing the line self-employed on your tax return. As such, HMRC will know that you've done tax returns. I've got a thing coming in. Oh, someone, look at this. There you go. I don't need to chop off my hands just yet. I have now got a wipe. So that's good. Thank you ever so much for the wipe. I'm now COVID-19 free. I hope. So let's go into HMRC apparently will notify you automatically. They know you've done a tax return. They can see that self-employment income. Therefore, they will know that whether you're eligible on that criteria. There are other criteria, and we'll come back to that in a second. They will ask you to apply on the portal. Go figure. So even though they know you are eligible for this government grant, doesn't mean you're automatically going to get it. No, no, no. You've still got to apply. How big is this application form? I don't know, because there isn't anything out there. And now this government grant is a portal is meant to be live at the end of April. No, it will probably be more like May for it to be up and running, and it'll be slow as heck. So you are going to have to wait to get on the system to apply. To review that, which is what, May, June? So then you are in a precarious position whereby you've not earned for a very long period of time. So you do need to have good cash reserves. Now, what they're saying is that they are going to make claims from the 1st of March to the 30th of June, which is technically 4 months, but they are unlikely to pay you until May or June at best. So you do need to think about this. So what they are going to do is they will send you a letter in the post, say that you can apply. You have then got to go into a government website and then put in your user credentials. Now, to preempt a lot of this, make sure that you do have a government ID username and password. So when they do get this letter, if you're self-employed, it enables you to speed up the process. What you don't want to do is get this letter and then think, oh, I've got no government gateway. Now you've delayed yourself. So make sure you get a government ID and password ready before you get this letter so you can speed up that process. You don't want any delays from your side. The delays will be their side, and it will be a delay. And once they get the application, like I say, they will go through the process. They will go through that, and then they'll say, okay, well, let's have a look at their 3 years tax returns. Have their business been stopped because of COVID-19? Looking at the application process, and they'll say, fine, we'll make the payments, and we'll do that on these equal monthly installments. That's technically how it's going to apply. They will look at your situation. They will determine whether you're eligible or not, and then they will make those payments in each of those months. Don't forget, though, if it's not up until May, you've already gone through March and April, so you're going to get 2 lots or potentially 3 lots of money coming in at one go. So I will suspect that anyone who's self-employed will need a good bank account, an overdraft, a loan to get them through this period of time before they can pull on this government grant. It's not a great position to be in if you're self-employed. So do look at other avenues that you can generate income, because you are not going to get this money very quickly at all from HMRC. So just be warned. Now, obviously, they have for the self-employed say, do not pay your second payment on account on the 31st of July. So if you have been saving up money to make that payment on the 31st of July for your second payment on account for your tax bill, then utilize that money for your life. Buy food, clothing, with clothing, food for your family. That's what I meant. And pay the mortgage off if you can. But again, do look at your life expenses at the same time. Okay, so I'll come back to that. So let's go through any questions that you've got on here, and I'll come back to that. I appreciate I've taken more than an hour of your time. I'm so sorry, but I think it's really important to get as much detail into this as possible, so we can do that. So let's go through. Wow, there's quite a few questions now. So let's look. Oh, there's not as many. So let's just go through. Jenny and Rishi, we've done. Ricardo, done. Thank you very much. Oh, no, it's not my name at all. Okay. And everyone's just saying thank you. You're all glowing. Well, listening. No, no, you're not. It's just that you're just saying thank you. On the DJ decks from doing a rewind. Cross the ball selector. No, it's not me. So yes, indeed, Devinder, I'm right on it. Is partnership income classed as self-employment? Partnership income, again, on your partnership self-assessment tax return will say self-employment or other. So you could pull on that as well, Jason. So yes, you could do that. You could have a look at that. If it's from property and it's from partnership, no, unfortunately not. It will be on your partnership tax return. That's a good point, because HMRC probably haven't thought about that too well, because now you're going to, they won't know your eligibility if they just look at your self-assessment tax return without looking at the partnership tax return. Good point. But they haven't learned that one at all. Alexander said, I set up a limited company offering architectural services in March 2019. I'm not sure if I qualify for any income support. Well, first of all, you've got a limited company, Alexander, so you're not self-employed, so you cannot get these self-employment. Could you have got furlough if you start your job or this company on the 28th of February, you set up payroll and you paid yourself? Then you could get the furlough government grant. But unfortunately, you started in March 2019. Sorry, misread the year yet. So since you're a limited company providing architectural services, if you paid yourself a wage and now all of your income streams has disappeared, then indeed you could be making yourself furlough, and you could get the 80% of the wages you paid through your payroll each month. Now, if you haven't been paying yourself payroll through the payroll system, then HMRC will decline the payments that you're expecting to get from the grants itself. You do need to have this thing called RTI, real-time information, which they can pull on for you as an employee, because you have to give them information such as employee number and an employer number. So if you have not got an employee, like a payroll system set up, you will not be able to get furlough through your limited company, unfortunately. So do speak to your accountant, see if they've done that for you, or your tax advisor. Daniel said, my wife is self-employed. Beautician was on maternity pay for a part-time for 3 years. That will be considered as part-time for the self-employed income or excluded. Well, the word is self-employed. So the fact that you don't get maternity pay for self-employed, typically, I don't think. Well, you might get some. I'm not quite sure how that works. But again, HMRC will look at your self-employment income stream on your 3 tax returns that you submitted and then take an average. So as an example, actually, Daniel, listening in, you could have the first year when you made £30,000 worth of profits, in the second year, £20,000, in the third year, £10,000. The government will still take the average. So they'll take £20,000 as the average, even though you've only made £10,000 in the last tax year. So ultimately, you will get an increase really of the 80%. So that could work in your favor. It would suck, to be fair, if you started your business only 3-4 years ago and you've got £10,000 worth of profit, £20,000 in the second year, £30,000 worth of profits in the third year, because again, HMRC will only give you a proportion of 80% of this second year. So the £20,000, or the average, I should say. So if you've been growing your business, this is going to hurt, because ultimately they will be looking back and giving you lesser of the money that you're actually making. It would work in your favor if you have been decreasing your self-employment income over a period of time. Again, as long as you've been hitting the legibility that I talked about earlier, and as Devinder said, rewind and watch that video again. So I'm going to listen to that now, Devinder. You've put it in my head and I can't get it out. I need therapy. Daniel said as well, sorry if I missed this, department of 80% average of the last 3 years. Yes, indeed, Daniel, you've got it right now. So if a sole director of a limited company, minimal salary, £6,000, and the remainder in dividends, what options? Well, unfortunately, it's just the wages. Dividends, you do not get a government grant for. It is just the wages that you've been putting through on your payroll system. Now, I have had someone say, well, I've been paying myself through a wage, but not through the RTI. Don't mention it, because the government will then open up a tax investigation on you and charge you for every month that you've not been doing RTI. So if you've been paying yourself more, I think it's something like £600 in terms of wages per month, and you've not been doing payroll each month, then you could find yourself in spot of bother. So keep your mouth shut, really, I would say, precariously. But if you've been paying yourself through payroll, again, you could be, if you are going to be eligible because of furlough, you will get 80% of what you've been paying yourself in terms of wages. So again, rewind, watch that section of the video again, just to catch up. Daniel said, would you guess as to when the letters notifying entitlement will be received by latest date? So no to chase HMRC. Interesting enough, what they've said on the website is don't chase HMRC because it would delay the application process for everyone. So the more that they are on the phones, the less time that they have to fold up that piece of paper, to put it in an envelope, to get into the letterbox, for you to pick up the letterbox, and for you to open the letter. I've probably overly described that, but you know what I mean. It's a point of don't contact HMRC just yet. They will be sending letters out, I suspect, by the end of April. So if you've not heard anything by May, maybe that's the time to talk to them. Until then, don't, because it will delay the application process for everyone involved. Okay, so let's just go through. DH has said income has and a possibility of earning has disappeared. So, okay, so yeah, just talking about the same situation. So Alexandra said, Optimise my accountants, so I'll book an appointment to discuss this. Well, that's what we're there for. So do book that consultation with us, talk about your situation, because it's good to talk, right? That's O2. Oh, am I going to get sued for that? I don't know. So Daniel's also said, thank you for the information and clarification. You're very welcome, Daniel. DH has said, no payroll as under the LEL. In that case, I think you're going to find it difficult to get any government grant funding from it. It's my answer. Gillian said, landlords aren't self-employed. No, they're not. So if you've got income from property, that is not going to get a government grant. You are on your own, but you do need to find out if your tenants aren't paying you, if there is a government granting position. At National Landlords Association have a guaranteed rental scheme. Your insurance companies may pay you money if your tenants do not pay. Okay, so you might not get money from the government grant, but could you get money from your insurance company or the NLA guaranteed rent? And funny enough, the NLA representative in Leicester has agreed to do a interview with me to talk about this very thing, to get this information out. We will do a live Q&A on that, so please stay tuned for the dates on that, and we'll get that up and running. Okay, so anything else? Oh no, that's pretty much it. So what is the most important learning? So once you're typing in your questions, do feel free to type in your questions anymore. I'm going to take a slab of water. I know we're late. I apologize if you're missing something on TV. Really bad. Apologies. But what is the most important learning from this session? Maybe just the one thing that you've taken from this session, which you find has been most valuable for you. Do feed that back to me, because it's always good to hear feedback. What's been good, what's been positive, and more importantly, what action you are now going to take because what you've listened to tonight and what things have been clarified for you. So what's useful, what action are you going to take? Maybe that's the best question to ask you. So type that in. I'm going to take a sip of water and then I'll go back to that. But don't forget to press the like button, because there are people, 30 odd people listening in and only 22 likes. Come on, guys, give me those likes. That would be greatly appreciated. This is free. All you got to do is press that like button. That's free. Just helps me get that message out there as quickly as possible. I'm just going to click on that to see it. If the likes button comes on, 22 likes. Okay, let's go more. We've got to beat Joe Wicks, right? He's got millions. That guy's legendary. If you've not listened to that, if you've got kids, not sure what to do with them in the morning, at 9 o'clock, guy called Joe Wicks on YouTube does a YouTube live PE session for about half an hour. And if you think it's just for kids and you're not going to sweat, trust me, you will. Quite difficult, actually. Okay, so all got some questions coming in. So let's just have a look. Ricardo said, my wife and I set up a limited company, 50% shares each, and we bought our first investment property. She's on maternity leave now and doesn't want to go back to work. I'm an employee. How could we be tax efficient? Ricardo, that's really a long conversation to have. I'm not really able to go through that length of detail with you tonight, but speak to your tax advisor, speak to your accountant about tax efficiency. This is really about furlough and getting out on their own self-employed. But again, you may be able to get furlough from being an employee of your own company. Again, if you are payroll, do look back at that. But that's all I can say for now. Daniel said, best learning wants to check ASTs. So yes, if you, again, just as a repeat of that, if you've got tenants, check their ASTs, check their credit referencing, because in there, it will say where they work, and you can then judge, are they at risk in their business? Are they at risk in their employment? And could then I have a problem on my hands? So it is worth having that conversation. And equally, if they've been furloughed, they're only now receiving a maximum of £2,500 or 80% of their wages. So they may have less income coming in and may want to talk to you about discounting the rent. To be fair, I was very open about that to say, well, if you cannot pay all the rent in one go, then let's talk about what you can pay, and then we'll add that on and accrue it. Obviously, that didn't work for the tenants, but it's good to have that conversation to see what does work. I always like to keep good tenants and without going for new tenants, if I'm honest. It's a lot more hassle. Alexandra, you're very welcome. Make sure you do book that tax call, always worth doing that. Simon Collins, great to see you, buddy. Hope you're well. Nice to see you on the show tonight. Can't see the like button, probably my phone acting up. If you've not got an iPhone, mate, sort yourself out. I've been telling people using these Android phones are really rubbish. Don't bother. Yumang said, are there any grants for property trading companies? Again, it's not the company, Yumang. It's whether you have, whether you are an employee of that limited company. It's not the limited company that's getting the government grant. It's the employee, which is based on the wages that they receive on a monthly basis. So again, rewind onto that. Do check that out. Lesson should set up payroll 12 months ago. Ow, sorry, that's not really, well, book a tax call. Let's see what we can do, but yeah. Someone else to say, heartbeat 100, heartbeats. Thank you, Simon. Really clear information and really Paul singing at the same time. Guys, you've been amazing tuning in to me tonight. I hope you found this useful. We are going to do some more live Q&A, so do look out for the YouTube community, my Facebook profile, friend book request. I don't know if that's even a thing. Facebook, yeah, requests. I think that's right. LinkedIn, check me out on there. YouTube, subscribe. Keep checking out, because I will be sending out notifications of the next live shows we'll be doing. We've got quite a few coming up, actually, so stay tuned, and hopefully we'll be providing with more useful information. But until then, don't forget, if you haven't watched the property tax workshop, and actually, Ricardo, you have sent that message, so if you want to be tax efficient, watch that video. That is 2.5 hours, which you probably could do by skipping through sections and be more tax efficient. So there you go. And I have answered your question after all. The one question was, Snowley was, Helen Graham is saying, is any help available if lots of tenants, airline cabin crew from the rest of Europe suddenly leave en masse and made redundant? Probably not, but because of your accommodation, again, insurance companies, NLA rent guarantees, those are your first point of calls. Other than that, good night, God bless, stay safe, stay at home, protect the NHS. Got that in the wrong order, but you know the message. See you again soon. Bye-bye.